Ritter to the end zone, looking for Pierce. Did he hang on? Yes. Touchdown. Great back as I've been around. Here he goes again. Busts free. Jerome Ford down the sideline. Foot race. House call. Touchdown. 79 yards. Big one in the Peach Bowl. This is a big one too. And it's going to go all the way to the house on the first play from scrimmage.
Bearcat Blitz as we work our way through January here. Welcome in, everybody, to another edition of the show. I'm your host, Russ Heltman from Cincinnati Bearcats on SI, joined by my co-host, Neil Meyer of the Front Office News.com. We will get to the full show in just a moment and bring Neil in along the way there as well. Plenty to get to on today's episode, starting off the week here in the middle of January. We'll get to a new defensive coordinator for the Cincinnati Bearcats football team, one with close ties to Scott Satterfield throughout his head coaching career. And the football transfer class is basically finalized. Maybe one or two more names could come down the pipeline, but the Bearcats have basically expended their scholarship output for the 2025 season. There's no major scholarship limit, but the usual range of where the scholarship sits for the Bearcats have been hit by this point, with 22 names in the transfer portal coming in and another preferred walk-on as well to make it 23 total so far. We'll touch on that to start the episode, and then we will get to the lowly part of things, the less exciting part of things. The 0-3 Bearcats in the Big 12. They fell to UCF on Sunday night in another close, heartbreaking late game. Just puke down your entire body showing from the Bearcats, 73-72 against UCF. They are now 8-8 on the season, 0-3 in the Big 12, tied for last place in the conference, and firmly done. The season is completely cooked, fully over. We'll touch on that and preview the Colorado outfit coming to Cincinnati on Wednesday evening. Chance for the Bearcats to get their first Big 12 win of the season. All that coming up on Bearcat Blitz, presented by FanDuel Sportsbook, where you can bet on college football. The national championship game coming up this Monday night, 7:30, between number 1 Indiana, an 8.5-point favorite on FanDuel Sportsbook, against number 10 Miami, Florida Hurricanes. That is 8.5-point underdogs are Miami, plus 280 on the money line if you think they can upset Fernando Mendoza and the freight train that is Indiana, a shining light for programs like Cincinnati and all the other middling power conference teams that, with the right coach and the right mix of assets and team building, could maybe make a run to glory like Indiana has this season, one win away from their first national championship as a program. Bet on that with FanDuel Sportsbook, your betting choice for so many options like Major League Baseball, college basketball, women's college basketball, soccer, the PGA Tour coming back in a few weeks, UFC in full swing coming up all throughout the weekends this year, NBA season in action, and of course, NFL divisional round weekend getting rolling this Sunday. All of that coming up on Bearcat Blitz, and we are presented, of course, by FanDuel Sportsbook. Check out those wagers today. Getting to Neil Meyer and some big Bearcats news and notes after this. Bring Neil Meyer in now for the frontofficenews.com. Check out his work there and check out my work at Cincinnati Bearcats on SI. Neil, transfer class basically rounded out here for the Cincinnati Bearcats. About 10 offensive players, 12 defensive players, and then obviously the preferred walk-on as well mixing in there. Neil, overall, your thoughts on this transfer class? 22 names, 2 quarterbacks. We haven't talked, well, I don't think we've talked since we discussed J.C. French visiting the program early last week, and he is officially going to be likely the quarterback this coming season unless Liam O'Brien jumps up as the Penn transfer quarterback and somehow takes that job. I would be stunned if that happens. But J.C. French leads the way, Neil, for the Bearcats there. And then Ty Goodwill maybe is the lead defensive addition for Cincinnati. And overall, the top ranked transfer addition for Cincinnati, Kent State, athletic kind of Swiss Army knife wide receiver, running back option, Cade Wolford. He's the only 4-star addition on 24/7 Sports' metrics to get added to this class, Neil, and Cincinnati sits at about 38th nationally overall in the transfer team rankings on 24/7 Sports. Your thoughts on this group?
Yeah, I know on the last episode of the Bearcats Blitz podcast, I sat down with Ryan Roberts and we kind of broke down majority of this transfer portal class, but since then there's been about six or seven new additions. So you mentioned Liam O'Brien, one, the Penn quarterback, like you mentioned, Russ. I think it's safe to say he's going to be the guy behind J.C. French and potentially Samaj Jones. So it's going to be interesting to see what that quarterback room kind of shapes out to be, who's going to be the guy. But it's safe to say J.C. French is probably going to be your starter heading into this season. You mentioned Ty Goodwill. I thought that was a big time addition for them in the defensive portal cycle. I really love that they got a commitment basically right away. Didn't really let him take any other visits. But since then, Russ, the big two commitments that I'm really kind of excited and having the opportunity to kind of sit down, watch some more tape, and get to know is former Oklahoma wide receiver Giovanni Gibson. I mean, this was a guy who tore it up at Arkansas Pine Bluff there in 2024, had 1,000 yards as a true freshman, 10 touchdowns, and then was battled a little bit of the injury bug for Oklahoma last season, never really found his footing per se. So I'm excited to see what he'll bring to the table for Cincinnati. Obviously, a guy that Cincinnati went after last season in this transfer portal cycle before he committed to Oklahoma this year. It comes back around full circle, so they were able to get their guy there at wide receiver. But then also on the defensive side of the ball, I'm really excited to see what Kenny Worthy III brings to Cincinnati as well, the Washington State cornerback. I think those are the two guys that I'm very excited to see within the recent portal cycle. But I think they've done a great job so far. Obviously, Nick Laminenta has had a difficult challenge on his hands, right? Because you see Jack Griffith and you see Carter Wilson both leave for new roles at different universities. So then this Zach Grant and this recruiting department have kind of been all hands on deck since then. But you have to be pretty fired up for what they're doing. 23 new members, so it's going to be interesting to see what their game plan is. But Russ, most importantly, I think the biggest thing from this transfer class is when you looked at some of these additions, it kind of gave it away that whatever Cincinnati was going to do on the defensive coordinator hire, it was probably going to play more towards a 3-4 scheme. And now with the hiring of Army's defensive coordinator, Nate Woody, it kind of leans that way. So we now know what to expect on the defensive side of the ball in terms of schemes per se.
That we do. We'll get to Nate Woody in just a moment. The Bearcats, I think, got maybe overall better. We'll see. I mean, we're just going to have to see. There's so much unknown here, Neil, with how this team is going to look, how many key contributors are leaving compared to how many are projected to be coming in from this transfer portal. We're going to have all offseason to kind of gauge whether or not this team can maintain its bowl status with this completely, basically brand new overhauled group. The biggest overhaul in terms of starting players, I would say, since Scott Satterfield took over for Luke Fickell in 2023. So plenty of time to get to that. All in all, a solid job. I think they did a solid job given the resources at their disposal and given the tough scenario that Brendan Sorsby put them in by reneging on his deal, opting out of his multi-year contract with the Bearcats, and foregoing and being willing to have to pay a $1 million buyout, as reported by Justin Williams of The Athletic, to be able to get out of his deal with his NIL deal with the Bearcats and go sign with the Texas Tech Raiders. So the Bearcats should be getting an additional amount of money coming their way because of that transaction. So good bit of business there by Cincinnati to make sure that they didn't they weren't exposed to Brendan Sorsby leaving for nothing, if that were to be the case. So good job on that end. And feels like the Bearcats, they kind of are maximizing the resources that they have at their disposal. I mean, they don't have the tens of millions of dollars in extra NIL funding that some of these other schools have, as noted by Scott Satterfield. So they have to try to make things work on the margins and try to mine out some talents and some developments from the FCS level, from the Division II level, and we'll see how that plays out in the coming few months and the rest of this year in 2026. They believe, though, in this staff. I mean, Neil, they just gave Nico Palizzetti an extension, director of sport performance, just gave Zach Grant an extension, general manager. Those two guys have done a great job. Those two guys have done a really, really great job of maximizing the amount of talent that they could find in the transfer portal and at the high school level, and then giving that talent to Nico Palizzetti and turning them into reshaped players, i.e. Jake Golday from a defensive end, edge rusher to a linebacker and reshaping his body that way, reshaping Brendan Sorsby's body to allow him to have his best season this past year. We saw that body transformation picture he posted before the start of the 2025 season, and look how well he played after going through a full year with Nico Palizzetti and his team. So great to get those guys locked in and on board moving forward. The question is, can Cincinnati win enough this fall to keep the train rolling for Scott Satterfield's fifth season? That is the big question there, as Satterfield, according to The Athletic, is looking at a buyout around, it's like $5.3 million if Cincinnati were to move on after the 2026 season. So not necessarily a massive kind of barrier stopping them from moving on from this era. If things do not go well this fall, it would cost them $8.19 million to buy out Scott Satterfield's contract if they fired him as of today. And then after 2026, it would cost them $5.53 million. I'm not sure exactly if that's calendar year 2026 or after the 2026 end of season. Huge difference there, obviously, because if they fired him on the day after the season, they would have a ton of time to find a new coach, get ready for the transfer portal, versus January 1st. You got one day until the transfer portal at that point, and you're kind of caught in a frenzy. But hopefully for the Bearcats fans, hopefully for the Bearcats football program, that does not even come into the equation. They can shock the world and win 8, 9, 10 games this year and be in the mix for the Big 12, which is going to be largely pretty wide open with all of the transfer movement and all of the kind of transfer trauma triage that's going on with these programs across the Big 12. It is as wide open every single year as it's ever been. So the door is there for the Bearcats to slam through it. We'll see if that development happens over the next few months to do that. Neil, closing things out on the football side with Nate Woody. Chad Brendel of the Bearcat Journal reports that signing. He is going to be dropping into the Bearcats defensive structure here and bringing a 3-4 blitzing scheme to the table. This is going to be an aggressive 3-4 scheme, Neil. Going to have 4 linebackers out there, 3 down linemen, a true nose tackle, 2 edge rushers, and likely it's just the 2 outside cornerbacks and your 2 top end safeties. I think we've seen the last of the star position for at least a while in the Bearcats defense, Neil.
Yeah, and honestly, I think we saw the last of that position before the bowl game, to be honest, because they didn't run much of it in the bowl game. But if you look down, Russ,
well, they would have lost 70-17 if they ran 3-3-5 in the bowl game.
But when you look down to at this hire of Nate Woody, what's fascinating too is obviously this is someone who spent a lot of time with Scott Satterfield at times at Appalachian State.
2013 to 2017 was Satterfield's defensive coordinator.
So he spent a lot of time. He knows what Sat wants to do on the defensive end, Russ. But the biggest thing for me to take away with the hire of Nate Woody that I find so unique was obviously some people were thinking this could be an internal hire, right? But they go and they bring in another guy from Army who has had a top 15 defense in the last 3 years. And then you look down on top of it. And the reason I say this is, you know who also came from Army on Cincinnati staff is Court Braswell. So these two work really well together. They've had success together. I'm going to be really intrigued to see how do these guys mix, because Coach Braswell, predominantly with the linebackers, really liked the development of Jake Golday. Jonathan Thompson could pave his way to have a big role this season. Simeon Coleman, it's going to be interesting to see what that linebacker core might look like and what they might be able to do in terms of the rushing efforts. But Russ, it's safe to say the 3-3-5's gone. We won't see that star position again. So safe to say that's a thing. But I'm really intrigued to see this 3-4 front and say, hey, how can Cincinnati utilize it? Because Russ, if they would have ran this scheme last year potentially, things might have played into their favor a little bit better because the strength of the defense was that linebacker position. Now this year they're not going to have a potential day 2 draft pick out there in Jake Golday, and you're going to have the experience there, but you have some guys back there who are now experiencing quality playing time. Monte Whedon, Simeon Coleman, two guys who are expected to have big roles. And then you have Jonathan Thompson as well, who could come in and be that guy at that linebacker position. So they have the depth there, but I'm really going to be curious to see how do they utilize those two guys. Now, Jonathan Thompson has a knack for the football. We've known that. He has shown up time and time again to make plays for Cincinnati's defense, especially this past season. I thought he had his best year of his career. But Russ, for Cincinnati, it's going to be interesting to see how does Coach Braswell and now Nate Woody kind of go hand in hand, and what do they present on the defensive front? Because everybody knows in the Big 12 you're going to have to find ways to get pressure to the quarterback, and that's what Cincinnati lacked last year. So I'm sure those two are going to be hand in hand in trying to see, hey, how can we bring these backers to come back and get downhill and make some plays alongside rushing off the edge per se. So I'm excited. I think this is a fantastic hire for Cincinnati.
Solid. I'll say solid so far. The jury, it's just like everything else
It's
with
too
this,
early, yeah.
with this program. It's too early to say it's fantastic. Had a bad defense last year for Army, a great defense the year before, one of the best scoring defenses in the country to help Army. I believe they went 12-1 or 13-1, something like that. A historic season. And so I think it's good. I think you get a guy that is going to already have very close understanding of how Scott Satterfield wants to work. He's going to understand the ins and outs of how he wants to run a program. And you kind of get another one of your allies to come with you in what is feeling like a little bit of a last stand. The Bearcats have to keep moving forward in some capacity here. I would say losing Brendan Sorsby leaves the gate open to regress to 6 wins this coming fall and still make the case that the program is in a decent spot or trending up. But you can't go 5-7, 4-8, or 3-9 and expect the fan base to be satisfied with that, even though you lost Brendan Sorsby. They don't care that you lost Brendan Sorsby. They expect year 4 of Scott Satterfield to trend up. You no longer need 3 years in college football to make a program work. If you need 3 years in college football, or 4 years, or 5 years, or 6 years, then you're not the guy. So Scott Satterfield surrounding himself with an ally. I like that. A guy that he can trust, a guy that he knows that he can get into a foxhole with. And maybe that is enough to turn around, Neil, a defense that was flat out putrid last season. Putrid. So bad. I mean, terrible at getting pressure, terrible at stopping teams, 107th in stop rate against FBS opponents last season. They couldn't get pressure on the quarterback. They couldn't stop the run consistently. So a lot of things need to change while losing 2 of your 3 best defensive players in Jake Golday and Dante Corleone. I'm glad to retain Antoine Peak Jr. He's coming back to the Bearcats for the 2026 season. So they get that player to lean on as well there. But I mean, the Army defense last year was not good. 75th in EPA per rush allowed, 89th in EPA per drop back, 130th in quality drive rate allowed. Cincinnati's defense was 117th. I mean, rush rate over expectation, 122nd. They were 125th in 3rd and 4th down success rate. So given how great they were in 24 and the drop off in 25, that to me is more of a personnel thing than a coaching acumen thing from Nate Woody. He's proven that he can put together really good defenses when given the right resources throughout his career. So I think it's possible that he could really turn this thing around, especially with a 3-4 blitzing scheme. Mix it up, Neil. Bring some dogs. Bring some pressure. Throw caution to the wind a little bit more. If you give up some more big plays, that's okay. The bottom line is you got to get more stops. And the only way to really do this without having a $5 to $6 million defensive line that you could rush 3 or 4 players at a time and still get pressure with is to blitz, blitz smartly, blitz aggressively, with a veteran defensive coordinator who knows what he's doing in those blitzing schemes. I think Nate Woody is that guy. He's a solid hire. And I would say, as of now, I would say before we know anything and before we see him coach a game with the Bearcats, is an upgrade over Tyson Veit, just considering Tyson Veit in his 2 years at Cincinnati as a defensive coordinator did not really produce any good results to lean on versus Nate Woody. Neil, he's done it before. He's done it before at Appalachian State. He's done it before at Army against good teams, and we'll see if he can do it against a lot more good teams with the Cincinnati Bearcats in the Big 12 level. I'm with you. I think it's a solid hire. Despite the lack of success from the Army defense last year, there have been very successful years from that unit before. Let's get to the basketball side of things as Wes Miller's team is 0-3 in the Big 12. Before that, though, I got to tell you about FanDuel Sportsbook, your sports betting option for college basketball, where you can get a 30% profit boost on the Iowa State and Kansas game happening on Tuesday, January 13th. Kansas, a slight exit from the AP Top 25 recently. I think they're right along the edge of the AP Top 25 so far this season. They're 3.5-point underdogs at home, unranked, against Iowa State tonight. 9 p.m. tip-off. Number 2 ranked Cyclones coming to, or I think, yeah, they are coming to Cincinnati in a couple weeks, because Cincinnati played them on the road last year. So that'll be a nice little treat for the Bearcats in January, where they take on the Kansas Jayhawks tonight as -200 moneyline favorites. You could bet on that game with a profit boost from FanDuel Sportsbook, 30% profit boost on FanDuel. We're presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. Back after these messages. Neil, Cincinnati Bearcats basketball team loses another brutal game. They have now lost their opening Big 12 contests, all 3 of them, by a combined 10 points. Just 10 points, including 3 combined points in the last 2 games. A 73-72 loss at the hands of UCF. A very solid game from Timus Folks. He was very, very good in this one. Had 15 points. 4 total rebounds, and was just controlling the game all over. Riley Kugel was very good as well. 19 points, 6 assists, 5 rebounds. He shot 70% from the floor. The Bearcats wasted the return homecoming of Mustafa Cham, probably his best game as a Bearcat so far. I believe it was a career high 24 points for Cham, 5 rebounds on the day. He goes 9 of 13 from 2-point range, 1 of 2 from deep. One of just 3 threes made all game, Neil, by the Bearcats. They continue to shoot like one of the worst teams in the entire country, currently sitting at 302nd nationally in 3-point percentage with a 31.1% hit rate. And it's been one of the biggest reasons, Neil, why this season is completely over.
Yeah, so when you look down at what happened on Sunday in Orlando, Russ, you mentioned it. Mustafa Cham was arguably the best player on the court, and we have been saying it all season long for probably the past 3 months, that when Cincinnati plays inside out and runs their offense through Mustafa, this team has the ability to be successful, right? 24 points, 5 rebounds. That's the kind of number that people were expecting Mustafa Cham to have as a projected NBA draft pick when he committed to Cincinnati. But outside of that, Cincinnati didn't get much offense from people. Baba Miller, 13 points on 6 of 11 shooting, had 7 rebounds, so a decent day for Baba there, but Jizzle James started the game 0 for 5. He finishes 7 for 14 with 14 points, so really liked how he kind of turned around. But outside of those 3 guys, I mean, this offense is non-existent, Russ. I mean, they're relying on Jizzle James, Baba Miller, and Mustafa Cham and Dede Thomas to come in and score you some points, because when you look down at this box score here from this loss, I mean, Cincinnati 3 of 19 from 3. They continue to shoot absolutely poorly from behind the arc, and that is something that they continued to do, even though they know the strength of their team is right now is Mustafa Cham.
28% from deep, Neil, in conference play. 28%.
And it could drop even lower on Wednesday night when they take on Colorado. So it's going to be interesting to see that. But Russ, when you look down and you see this box score and you see 3 of 19, but most importantly, you see guys like Sincere Harris shooting 8 times, 2 for 8. Sincere's not your offensive guy. He's your defensive guy. So seeing 8 shots from there wasn't really too impressed on that aspect. But Russ, this is another opportunity where Cincinnati down the final 4 minutes just absolutely pooped down their leg and said, hey,
73-72. They walk the ball up and shoot a three in the final 10 seconds. Like,
now,
what are we doing? What are we doing out here?
And I like that it was Jalen Celestine who took the final shot, but still you had plenty of time on the clock to maybe get a better
Jalen
look.
Celestine, who was 1 for 4 from 3 in at that point in the game.
And they had no urgency down the final stretch. So overall, there has to be a sense of urgency here for Cincinnati. And I mean, we hear the comments from Wes Miller. We see that he's actively pushing these guys in practice, but from these players, just seems like we haven't seen that sense of urgency yet. You're sitting at 8-8, Russ. I think this is the first time that Cincinnati has been 500 since you and I have maybe covered this program.
They've never been 500 or worse in the Wes Miller era. I mean, it's over. It's so cooked. It's so done. Neil, I'm pretty sure it was reported by either Dan Horde or Scott Springer of the Inquirer, Dan Horde of the UC Bearcats broadcast. They said that they did another one of the throw out the practice plan and let's just play games activities like they did last year. Back-to-back years of having to find your love for basketball again, quote unquote. Like, that's just embarrassing. It's embarrassing that they've had to do that in back-to-back years. And this time, Neil, it did not lead to a win.
Yeah, and I think both times they have done it, Russ, if I remember right, was heading into
UCF.
UCF.
It's exactly, it's crazy.
Because I remember we talked about the dodgeball story last year,
right?
Heading into this matchup. So I don't know. I don't know, Russ, but I mean, when you're looking down at the stats
it's
right
like
now,
the vote of confidence from an NFL owner for their head coach. It's the same kind of thing. Official stamping of you're cooked.
It's definitely not ideal for Cincinnati right now. And we were talking about it earlier, Russ, before we filmed this. They are sitting in shark-infested waters right now.
There's going to be paper bags on people's heads all throughout the arena tomorrow night.
And I'm very curious to see if that actually happens. Obviously, Barstool's making that thing. I would be surprised if that actually happens.
I think it'll be in the student section. It probably won't be in the fan section, but
we
will see paper bags on the heads. I would be stunned if we do not see it tomorrow night, as there should be. There should be paper bags on people's heads. People are like, oh, they shouldn't do that to college kids. They're not children. They're adults. They're getting paid 6 figures to perform. Shauna Bayev getting paid 6 figures to perform. What did he do in that game on Sunday night? Oh, a minus 14.5 box plus minus. Once again, was the worst player on the floor for either team to get extended minutes, outside of George Beal, who played 2 minutes and was a minus 47 box plus minus for UCF. Neil, Wes Miller has killed the freshman seasons of his 2 top 50 recruits. Absolutely murdered the seasons. We're halfway through the season, and I'm not seeing any VJ Edgecombe rise from Shauna Bayev. It's gone the exact opposite direction of how VJ Edgecombe rose. And I bring that up because Wes Miller compared Shauna Bayev and his struggles to VJ Edgecombe's struggles when we asked him about it after the Louisville loss.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously right now for Sean, I mean, the offensive game's not there, and it's a big jump from high school to college, and it just seems like that transition just hasn't been quite there.
He just seems broken though, man. Like, he's just missing wide open shots all the time. Like, just missing wide open shots.
It could be the confidence thing from going from a starter to the bench. That's something he probably hasn't done, or how this game has translated. Who knows? There could be a lot of different things that kind of lead up to the struggle right now for Shauna Bayev. But you look down, Russ, and you mentioned it. You have 2 top 50 recruits. Keyshawn Tillery kind of knew his role would probably be a little bit limited in that aspect. So you're not really
expecting nearly as much out of Tillery, but the Bayev thing, Neil, is a huge reason why they are 253rd nationally in offensive rating. He was a massive part of what this offense was supposed to be, along with Kirk Kriesa, who missed another game for the Bearcats in this one, and we saw exactly how that affected their ability to create baskets and create shots in this game. Did have 19 assists, But Neil, like they don't create buckets on their own at all off the dribble. No one is able to really do it consistently. Sean Abayev was supposed to be that guy, and he just hasn't been that guy. And there's no one else that you can really expect to be that. Jizzle James, sure, you would hope he could be that, but he's never throughout his career been an efficient player, and he is once again an inefficient player this season.
Yeah, and I mean, there's still so much to take into consideration with this team because, Russ, when you look down, the Jalen Haynes injury, you have Deshaun Abayev fallout, you have the Jizzle James return. I mean, there's so much to put into consideration, but looking right now, if Cincinnati doesn't come out with a victory tomorrow night, Russ, things could get very, very interesting. They're already in shark-infested waters, right? But tomorrow, if they lose to a Colorado team who has had a decent non-conference slate but has struggled since Big 12 play,
They're 2-1 in the Big 12.
Those Sharks are going to be coming a little bit closer, and it's going to be one of those decisions where who knows what could actually happen for Cincinnati per se.
What do you mean?
But
I mean, they're not going to fire him in the season.
No, they're not going to do that in the season.
They're going to wait till after the season. I mean, at this point, Neil, it would be almost malpractice to bring him back next year, given the way things are going. Like, I would be stunned at the rate things are going if the Bearcats do not have a new head coach next season. Crazy things are possible. Maybe they go 14-1 like they or 14-1 like they have to go down the stretch of the season to get into the NCAA tournament and save this thing from the brink. But I mean, they're 8-8, and it's not really in the cards. And I mean, what do you mean by shark infested waters? Like it kind of is what it is, Neil. Like the season's over. It's done.
Yeah.
It ended in mid-December when they lost to Eastern Michigan, and we're just kind of playing out the string and shooting hot air at each other now because we're in the middle of the season. That's kind of what you have to do.
Yeah, and at this point, it's kind of put anything together to see what can happen. And unfortunately, Russ, with this month of January, there's a realistic path that they could start 0-6 in Big 12 play.
They may win one game in January. Just one. They may not win any. It's possible. It's very possible they don't win any games as we close out the show here with a prediction on the Colorado side of things. Colorado 12-4 this season, 2-1 overall on the campaign, and Cincinnati expected to win this game 77.7% of the time on ESPN's matchup predictor. Colorado coming into this one ranked 75th on KenPom, while Cincinnati is 64th. Going to be a paced up matchup once again. Cincinnati 99th in adjusted tempo, Colorado 86th. And the Buffaloes bring a solid offense to the table here, 56 nationally in overall adjusted efficiency on that side of the floor, 85.5 points per game, shooting 49.1% from the floor. That's 36th best nationally. And Neil, they got four guys averaging double figure scoring coming into this game, led by freshman guard Isaiah Johnson. He's been one of the most efficient players in the entire country so far this season, shooting over 44% from deep on 3.4 attempts per game, 50.4% from the floor overall. I mean, his effective field goal percentage is rather good, 59.1% overall. That's going to get the job done, and a major problem for Cincinnati to deal with here, along with bruising sophomore forward Sebastian Rancic, 6'9", 210 pounds. They got Bangot Doc, who was a blocking machine against Cincinnati last year, 6'9" forward, 11.4 points per game. Their leading rebounder at 7.8 rebounds per game. They hound the glass. They really take advantage of teams there. +5 rebounding differential. And they do a good job getting to the free throw line, 24.9 free throw attempts per game. That's 49th nationally. And they get their bread buttered in the 2-point range, 54.9% from 2-point land this season. And they're making 22.8 2-point shots per game. That's 17th overall. Looking at this matchup, Neil, I can't pick the Bearcats. I cannot do it. I cannot pick the Bearcats to win this game against a top 80 opponent. I just can't do it. Like a top 75 opponent at that. Colorado's sitting there at 75th overall. I think when crunch time comes, it's going to be a close game once again. I expect a 3 to 4 point betting spread in this one, and I expect the Bearcats to pee down their legs at the end of the game like they do almost every time when Wes Miller has his hands at the wheel of coaching decisions in these matchups. I mean, he makes the wrong choice almost every time. His rotations are terrible almost every game. I mean, once again, rotations were a mess on Sunday with some of the way that guys were playing and the way that he shifted them around. I can't do it, Neil. I cannot pick the Bearcats until they win a Big 12 game against a decent opponent. Maybe I'll pick them against Utah if we get to a winless point at that section of the calendar when they take on the Utes all the way in February 15th. We got a long way to go there. That would be a long losing streak to go through, but I just can't do it. I don't see the matchup factors here for Cincinnati playing into their hands enough to beat Colorado. Colorado's biggest defensive weakness against the three, 36.5% allowed from deep this season, 337th nationally. The Bearcats don't shoot the ball well. They have had a ton of open three-point shots, and they just do not go in during the 2025-26 campaign. 28.4% from deep in conference play so far this season, 31.1% overall from outside. Give me the Colorado Buffaloes here to win this game 71-70 over the Bearcats. What do you got, Neil?
Yeah, and like you mentioned too, when you look down at Colorado, they are a good rebounding team. And what has Cincinnati not done well this year, Russ? And that's rebound the basketball. Outside of Baba Miller and Mustafa Cham, who else has been rebound the basketball? Tyler McKinley, when he's been out there, has had some good performances, but Cincinnati has struggled in that category. I mean, you even heard Wes Miller say, hey, we are trying to find guys to go out there and compete with Baba Miller in terms of the rebounding efforts, following his 21 rebounding effort a couple weeks ago. But since then, they have only been getting rebounds from the two guys that should be getting them, and that's Mustafa Cham and Baba Miller. So they're going to need some guys to step up in that category, and they're going to have to win the Battle of the Glass if they want to win this matchup too. And you mentioned Bengot Dak. He had a fantastic night for them. He's going to be trouble again for Cincinnati this year. I can see it coming already. It's going to be an interesting matchup between him and Mustafa Cham there in the front court, or Baba Miller. How does Cincinnati defend him? How do they find ways to keep him off the glass? And kind of, I think he finished that game last year, Russ, with like 8 blocks, if I remember right.
It was close to a Big 12 record, yeah.
They're going to have to find ways to keep him off the glass and away from the rim on the defensive efforts. They're going to have to find ways to draw him out, take him, get him in foul trouble, whatever it might be. But Russ, for Cincinnati to win this game, I don't like this matchup. Being brutally honest, I don't like this matchup for Cincinnati. And they're going to have to find ways to get to the foul line. You have just 8 free throw attempts versus UCF. You're going to have to find a way to get 15 to 20 free throw attempts in this game if you are going to want to have any sort of shot to win, right? Because you look down, Colorado averaging 24 free throws a game per se.
Yeah, that's 24.9, 49th nationally. So that, I mean, it plays into the Bearcats' hands a little bit there because they're only fouling 16.4 times per game. That's 87th best in the country, and opposing teams are shooting 16.7 free throw attempts per game, 44th best in the country. But Neil, if they end up fouling this Colorado team more than they have been used to, then Colorado could win by double digits.
Yeah. And that's where things could get difficult. But for me, like you mentioned, you have it 71 to 70 here. Cincinnati has not been able to score over 70 besides on Sunday in Big 12 play. I need to see some kind of effort on the offensive end. I'm still kind of thinking in my mind right now we don't see Kirk Carissa again tomorrow. So overall for Cincinnati, Russ, I have to go with Colorado here, and the same reason you have. Until they show us something on the offensive end, it's going to be difficult to pick them in our predictions. So give me Colorado. I'm going to go 76 to 70 in favor of the Buffaloes here at Fifth Third Arena on Wednesday.
Some hopeful transfer news for the Bearcats football team. Some hopeful defensive coordinator hiring news as well. Maybe, just maybe, they can overcome all the losses from this 2025 solid roster, the best roster of the Scott Satterfield era, and find a way to either match the 7 wins from 2025 or go even higher in 2026. That would be great for the health of the program and avoiding having to go through a coaching change. Did not want to have to go through that. Would love to see Scott Satterfield prove he can be the guy to eventually lead Cincinnati to Big 12 titles. And then on the basketball side, just playing out the string of what has been the worst Wes Miller season yet in a decade full of frustrating ones. For Neil Meyer, I'm Russ Heltman. This has been Bearcat Blitz on the Believe Network, presented by FanDuel Sportsbook.
6, Ritter to the end zone, looking for Pierce. Did he hang on? Yes. Touchdown. Back as I've been around. Here he goes again. Busts free. Jerome Ford down the sideline. Foot race.